Good afternoon, Justin. Good morning. Thank you for
Yeah,
being with us.
yeah. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
I'm excited to hear what Justin has to say.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you both. We'll see you here in just a few minutes, Francis and Judy. Justin, thank you so much for joining us again here on Race Industry Week. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Nice to join you guys. Good lineup this year.
Yeah, it really is for sure, and we're happy to have you. And it's interesting. I was thinking about this. I don't remember if it was last year when I had the opportunity to talk to you, or 2 years ago. But I want to start this by saying the one thing that stood out to me in our conversation is that, especially on the NASCAR side of things, we talk about Trackhouse racing week in and week out, but you kept referring to it as Trackhouse because it's so much more than just what we see on the NASCAR side. So let's talk about where this started and where it's grown.
Well, it's been quite a journey over the past 4 years, for sure. I mean, I think when we look at like 2024 was an incredibly huge year of growth for our business. And when I go back to when the business was formed in 2020, and I started ideating around what I wanted to build here, ultimately the goal was to create a very diverse, multifaceted motorsports entertainment platform. That's an ambitious goal. It's an ambitious comment to make, and it takes time, and it's really it's a 10-year vision. But what we've been able to build over the last 4 years has been incredible. I mean, I think we're well on our way to building that diverse sort of global platform. And 24 was the expansion of the business globally. And we've done some great things with our partner Pitbull in music, and we've got some great things that we're working on for next year that'll just continue that trajectory. So when I look at the business sort of holistically, I think it's in a position right now where it's really primed for continued growth. I mean, I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity in the motorsports industry. We continue to always look at all corners of the industry, race teams, entertainment, media, content, events, everything, to just determine where there's exciting growth positioned out there. So as a business, I think we're in a great spot, and I'm excited about our future. Yeah, it's been a heck of a journey.
Yeah, it has. It's been a lot of fun to watch. Well, let's talk about what's new and what was new in 2024. MotoGP, an Aprilia factory team. What brought you there, first of all?
Yeah, well, when I look at sort of the mission of the company, when it comes to the investments we make and how we want to grow and scale on the racetrack with race teams, there's really a core component that's a qualifier when we look at these opportunities, and it's exclusivity. We want to be in places that it's hard to be into, where there's only a certain number of people that have the ability to compete. Certainly have that in NASCAR with the charter system, and in MotoGP. I've told this story. I really went to go kind of explore a form of motorsport that I didn't really have a lot of exposure to previously. And part of it was to gain inspiration, but part of it was really to take a look at where there might be opportunity for the business outside of the NASCAR industry. And so I went to Austria for the Grand Prix in the late summer of 23. And as I was immersed in that environment and getting to know the folks at Dorna, the commercial rights holder, and met some of the teams and the manufacturers and kind of understood the economics of the sport, it became very clear to me that this was, I believe, a tremendous opportunity, a tremendous untapped resource for an American entity to enter into. I mean, the metrics of the sport don't lie. It's the second most consumed form of motorsports in the world, behind Formula One. Huge fan base all over the world. It touches every corner of the globe. And as I was going through sort of an exploration conversation with Dorna and with the series, there was an opportunity that came up to get us on the grid. And when I first started talking to them, it was important to them to have an American presence on the grid. They have a very robust North American growth strategy. And I showed up and started asking questions. And so we started having some deeper conversations about what it would look like. And ultimately, they came to me and said, look, we've got some spots on the grid that we hold for situations like this. And if you can get yourself organized for the 2024 season and get a team on the racetrack, we'd love to give you a spot. And that opportunity came very late in 23. So we had to work very, very hard. But that was I tell people that that was really a ready, fire, aim situation. I didn't really know how I was going to do it. I think when an opportunity like that presents itself, you have to take it and then kind of figure it out. What I didn't know at the time was that Dorna was in late stage negotiations to be acquired by Liberty Media on the background. So it really fit into kind of the bigger strategy of the business to have an American presence on the grid if the championship was about to be owned by an American media company. So we put everything together, hired Davide Brivio, legendary team manager, to operate it, put a deal together with Aprilia to be their satellite team with the RSGP 24 bikes alongside their factory team. And we went racing, and really it's just been a year of learning. It's been a year of learning for me, for my sales team, for my SG&A team, and just sort of everybody to kind of understand, how global motorsport works, how it fits into the Trackhouse portfolio. And it's an incredibly compelling experience when you go to one of these races. I mean, Miguel Oliveira, our rider in qualifying in Mugello, had a trap speed of 227 miles an hour. I mean, it is an incredible thing to witness in person. And that's what we look for as a business, are these forms of motorsport that just completely blow people away. And we're excited about growing that business and being advocates for motorcycle racing in North America. So yeah, that was certainly. The MotoGP World Championship was not on my whiteboard in 2020 when I started this, but when you open the aperture a little bit and kind of look at what we're trying to build as a company, it's perfect. It's a perfect fit for what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and it's interesting in hearing this story. This is one of the things that has been a true joy to watch when it comes to how Trackhouse has grown, because I can remember sitting at the NASCAR Hall of Fame a few years ago, and everyone's wondering, where is Justin Marks going to buy his charters? No one had Chip Ganassi on the table for charters that were available. But like you said with this, I made a couple of calls. You called Chip Ganassi that day. You go up to Pennsylvania and meet him at the train station, and the next thing you know, you've got a couple of charters, and it almost sounds like this sort of a similar but different trajectory in the way this happened.
Well, I mean, I think that you have to be convicted in your mission. You have to be convicted in what you're trying to do, and you have to leave no stone unturned and not be afraid to have sort of any conversation and put yourself out there. I mean, it was, the acquisition of CGR was because I had tried to acquire 4 or 5 charters and lost every single one of them, and had to just start getting creative, and just got to a point where I was like, I'm willing to get hung up on, I'm willing to get laughed out of the room, but I gotta go for it and ask the questions. And I don't think that, the CGR thing was any kind of, immense sort of like grand strategy or anything, besides it was the fact that I just, I called somebody that I'd raced for a long time, and sort of looked at their business from afar and said, there might be just a little bit of an opportunity here, and I got to kind of just shoot my shot and try it. And so there's some serendipity involved, some luck involved, and timing and all of that, but I think it all just goes back to authentically and intelligently putting out in the world what you're trying to accomplish, and then position yourself as somebody who is willing to make investments, willing to do the things that it takes to build a great company. And so when you put that out in the world and people recognize it, then typically those phone calls get answered.
Yeah, it's a great lesson for a lot of people. While we're still talking a little bit about MotoGP, I am curious about what you may have learned over the past year. What you know now that you certainly didn't know then. Just what comes to mind?
About MotoGP?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about it is, and I've taken a number of executives from our business to the races throughout the year to give them exposure to it. There's so much about MotoGP that is different than what we do in NASCAR. The vehicles are completely different. The psychology and personalities are different. You've got, culture and language barriers. You're traveling around the world instead of around the States. You're flying instead of driving. There's all these things that are just completely different. But then at the end of the day, it's also exactly the same thing, which is we're just going to racetracks and we're racing. And so the process of 2024 was really understanding, where can we apply the expertise that we have inside of Trackhouse from our NASCAR experience, from, my driving experience, from our engineers experience, even HR, finance, IT, just kind of those functions of the company. Where are we good in those areas of the company? that can be really accretive to the MotoGP side? And then what elements of the MotoGP that's endemic to that type of racing do we not have any expertise in? So we can hire really great people to fill those roles and let them do their thing. And, you know, I think that's really, that was really kind of our mission this year, was to go through that process to figure out how MotoGP, you know, integrates well into the portfolio of Trackhouse. But, you know, as far as learning things, you know, certainly I've just learned a lot about motorcycle racing. I mean, I've learned a lot about the technology of the bikes and the culture of the development cycle of riders coming up, right? So I'm familiar with quarter midgets and go-karts and late models and, you know, all of this kind of stuff. But, you know, how do the talents, you know, come up through motorcycle racing? Where do they come from? What is the talent profile of a great rider? What do you look for in a rookie? What are you trying to extract out of a veteran? You know, all of that, all of those things. I mean, certainly that's been a huge learning experience for me. You know, and also, you know, on the commercial and business side, for the first time in the history of our company, you know, we're at the global market for partners. And so we're starting to, we've been so experienced in kind of the you know, the opportunity that NASCAR provides for the American commercial market and American brands and activating all across the 50 states of America. But how is it different when you're promoting a global sport? What kind of companies, you know, would find value in a motorsports platform that one week is in Thailand and another week is in London and then in Argentina and then in Qatar and, you know, all these places around the world. So that's been a wonderful learning process, and one really that we're still just on the early stages of. I've got an incredible revenue and sales and commercial team at Trackhouse that are incredibly, you know, dedicated to finding how to take the framework of what we built and the great story that we've built in Trackhouse and scale that you know, into globally. So we can talk to Spanish companies and we can talk to British companies and we can talk to Asian companies. And so that's really where the learning, I mean, on the racetrack, it's really been it's just been understanding the people, the process at the racetrack, the technology, the bikes, and then, you know, how does the MotoGP asset on the platform really, you know, help our business develop into one that truly can speak all languages and activate in all corners of the globe.
Have you started to see successes or conversations open up how MotoGP and your NASCAR properties can come together? And not even to mention that, look, we're going to Mexico City in NASCAR next year, but you also have a driver from New Zealand who's going to run full time. I mean, can a lot of these tie together?
Yeah, I think so, for sure. I mean, I think that you know, the motorcycle racing fan is, you know, is a different fan than the NASCAR fan, but they certainly can be fans of each other's sports. I mean, I think that, you know, at the end of the day, we love competition. We're all gearheads. We love seeing vehicles on the racetrack, being, you know, driven and ridden by, you know, incredibly talented athletes. But you know, what I really love about where we are as a company is that we truly are a global business, and we want to tell all different kinds of stories. And I've said this, what I'm really excited about in 2025 is that we've got athletes at Trackhouse that represent New Zealand, Mexico, the USA, Japan, and Spain. And that's an incredibly compelling and interesting story to be able to tell. So as far as, you know, that feeds sort of the overarching story of Trackhouse. But as far as how the two teams can interact with each other, I mean, we're still exploring that. I mean, you know, we had the MotoGP team over to the shop, a NASCAR shop in North Carolina this year on their way to Austin for the US Grand Prix. And so it was really interesting to see that. So we had, you know, everybody from, you know, landed at the airport, like 30 people landed at the airport, came to the NASCAR shop, and we did this big day. And then it was really interesting to watch the riders sort of like migrate over to the drivers, and like the guys working on the engines, the motorcycle kind of found the engine guys in the NASCAR shop, and the brake guys and suspension guys and aero and all this stuff. And they were just all kind of, you know, geeking out a little bit on each other and asking questions and really having this amazing day of, you know, integration and appreciation. I think it just kind of opens everybody's, you know, spectrum a little bit on technology and you know, kind of a different type of motorsport. You know, I had Jordan Taylor bring the Garage 56 car to COTA to do demonstration laps before the MotoGP race. I would love to see a MotoGP bike do demonstration laps before a NASCAR race at a road course. I think that's something that you'll see in the future. You know, wherever we can be advocates to bring the two worlds together and to just kind of rise the tide of motorsports across the, you know, across the whole landscape would be a success for us. And then commercially, you know, that's the process we're going through right now is, you know, can we build, instead of going to market and saying, where's my finger? Add, enhance health. You can take this car, or, Onyx, you can take this car at this NASCAR race. We've got this entire platform where we can go talk to businesses about, promoting their goods and services in any part of the world. They can talk to any type of consumer that they want to talk to, and we can really create very customized, bespoke marketing programs that I think, hopefully will give us, a great competitive edge in that market, and truly just be able to build, an asset that's very, very valuable to our corporate partners.
That's pretty amazing to see what you're building. I shouldn't say what you built because I know it's continuing. On the NASCAR side, for the third year in a row, you put a car in the playoffs. Both cars made it to victory lane. How do you evaluate 2024 from a performance standpoint?
Yeah, from a performance standpoint, certainly not. I mean, there's good moments and things we need to improve on. I think that we're at an interesting point right now in the NASCAR Cup Series because we're towards the early stage. We're towards the end of the early stage of the development cycle of the next gen car, and what I mean by that is that the car's not really new anymore, so to speak. And so a lot of these teams, especially the legacy teams that have very, very deep workforces and tooling and technologies have really found a way to make the cars go fast, to really exploit all of the speed out of the cars. When you look back at 2022, when everything was new, it was a bit of a different type of competitive set that made the car go fast than it does now, while everybody was learning. And we had a great year in 22. We had a great year in 23. In 24, obviously high points. We got a car in the playoffs. Like you said, both cars got to victory lane. That's incredibly important for our business, is to be in victory lane. I mean, more than anything, we want to be winners. Certainly, it was disappointing that the one didn't make the playoffs. I think that there was some bad luck and some performance stuff, and the win came too late to be able to make that happen. So, it was, from a competitive standpoint, a year that leaves some to be desired. And really, honestly, it stoked the fire a little bit inside the company of doing a pretty deep internal audit and saying, we don't want to slide into mediocrity here. We don't want to have this sort of high point when the car was introduced to the sport and we were running top 5 every week, and then kind of find our place among sort of the middle third of the field. I really want to build a business here that can contend for championships year in and year out. And that's going to take time. It's going to take time, but a year like this, we've had some great meetings, competition meetings this year, where we've really looked at ourselves, really looked at our tools, looked at our resources, our workflow, our communication inside the company, and having one of these, what I call mirror moments, where, we're really looking at ourselves and trying to determine where are our weaknesses, where do we need to make investments, grow engineering depth, or, wherever it is in the company, to be able to get back to a point where, both teams next year, all 3 teams can compete for, multiple wins a year and ultimately, try to get a car or more to Phoenix. So I would say, I'm happy with the year and that we got to victory lane. We had some great moments, led laps, won some stages, we kind of did the things, but it was a year that I think is really going to set the stage for the next phase in the life cycle of the company. It's no small task to grow from 2 teams to 3 teams. And this is the opportunity where, we have an opportunity now, I think, to really make the key investments, really look at ourselves, audit the business, and then, figure out what the next stage of life in the business looks like, which hopefully is winning championships.
Well, let's talk about that expansion. Last year, you had Shane van Gisbergen come over, moved to the United States. You ran him at Colleague Racing in the Xfinity Series, a handful of Cup races as well. A couple of near misses on victory lane there too, but he did win 3 Xfinity races. And now he's going to move in full-time Trackhouse, the number 88 Chevy Camaro. Could you tell us about that expansion and Shane van Gisbergen, what he brings to the team?
Yeah, I mean, I think, from day one at Trackhouse, I really felt like if we could have some successes in the early years of the business and really be growth, have some good growth and be in a position for expansion, I think that the sweet spot from a competition standpoint in the NASCAR Cup Series is 3 cars. 3 cars is always really where I wanted to go. And so that opportunity came, for 2025. And we jumped at it. I mean, you know, look, I called Tony Stewart and I said, look, it's not lost on me that, you know, when teams expand and when teams grow and make their way up through the sport, it comes at the cost and the expense of other teams. And you hate to see a legendary team like Stewart-Haas go away. But what's great about it is that it's just new opportunities for people in the industry. We've made a lot of great hires from Stewart-Haas. So we've got a lot of really, excuse me, great talent coming into the building, and growing to three teams, I think, is incredibly exciting for us. I mean, it's, you know, we're 33% more chance every single weekend to be able to get a car into victory lane and have success, lead laps, and you know, make Trackhouse a part of the story. And I'm really excited about Shane. I mean, you know, it was not really on my radar to have Shane come and do this thing full time. Obviously, Chicago changed a lot of things for a lot of people in 2023, and you know, we just loved working with him so much. He's one of us. He's really wired like we are. He's a racer, but he's a great human being. He's a hard worker. He's selfless. You know, he's got all the right things. Plus, he's a great story. I mean, look, we're going racing next year in NASCAR with 3 full-time teams with 3 drivers born in 3 different countries, and they're all winners. I mean, to me, that's an amazing thing. That's something I'm incredibly proud of. And you know, we had a real conversation with Shane towards the end of 2023 and said, you know, look, if you want to come do this, I want to do this with you, Shane. I mean, it's a risk. It's a risk for both of us. I mean, you've got a lot of success in Australia and New Zealand. You know, you've got a great job down there. You can have a lot more success, but you can start over. And it's a risk for us putting somebody, you know, 1 year in the Xfinity Series and then ultimately in the Cup Series who just doesn't have any oval racing experience. But it's a risk that is worth taking for us. I mean, we've got some great sponsors behind him. The company's really excited about him. You know, 2025 is going to be a real learning year for him. What I like about it is that you know, from day one, we have an opportunity in that car to win multiple races and get into the playoffs and advance in the playoffs. We know that with the road courses. I think he did both races at Talladega and 1 race at Daytona this year in the Cup Series and led all 3 of those. I mean, his intelligence on the super speedways is really impressive. And then, you know, you have these moments where you see on the ovals, he had a stunning race at Darlington, a stunning race at Indianapolis, where you're like, okay, it's all here. So we're really excited to get him in the building full time. He's excited to be in the building, and we're excited about working with him. I think it checks a lot of boxes for us. It puts us immediately in a position to be a winning team with the 88 car, and with somebody that we really like working with, that I think has a very high ceiling.
Yeah, and look, this opportunity was also created with another great idea that you and your team had with the Project 91 program. We didn't see it on the track this past season. Will we see it again this upcoming season?
Yeah, it's certainly Project 91 is certainly not dead. I would expect that to see that on the racetrack sooner rather than later. What I love about it is, you know, it's like our first Project 91 graduate. You know, it's kind of like we did this deal and you know, turned it into, you know, from an amazing kind of 1-off or 2-off. He ran Indy in 23. Great little program for Project 91, turning into like a real thing in the sport, like a real, you know, some great star power, great new personality, someone who's committed full time and moved to the States, changed his complete life to be a Cup driver. I think that's really really fun, and one that's resonated, you know, with a lot of people. So we've got great partners on that car. You know, as far as the future, a lot of opportunity. I mean, a ton of opportunity. I get phone calls, you know, all the time from some of the greatest drivers around the world about coming and doing it. And that's really exciting for us. So, you know, the only reason that it wasn't on the racetrack in 2024 this year is that, you know, we just had so much going on. We had so much going on with, you know, the 3rd car that we prepared for a few races for SVG, and then, you know, helping him over at Colleague, and, you know, kind of all this stuff going on. We just didn't really have the bandwidth at the time for it. But now, as we're kind of just focused again on our 3 cars next year, full time, then Project 91 can come back, and I would expect to see it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, one of the other things I like, number one, you brought Shane van Gisbergen over here when a lot of us didn't know who he was. But also, you find talent in other ways, including young teenage drivers who can beat you on the racetrack. With Connor Zilisch now coming up full time in Xfinity, you have him over at Junior Motorsports. What an amazing talent that we've already seen with success.
What's great about where we are as a business is, you always want to be able to have, you want to be able to dictate your future. You want to be able to put assets in place to be able to kind of have some control over your destiny. And, as the business got really established in NASCAR, we got to a point where, we said, look, if we're, when we are at points in the life cycle of this business where we have to go look for drivers, we don't want to be on our back heels. We don't want to say, okay, well, this driver's moving on or retiring or whatever it is. Now let's just look at the free agent market and try to get the best who's out there. We're in a position now as a business where we're established, where we really want to start growing our talent. And that's not just behind the wheel of the race car. That's in engineering. It's in the pit crews. It's in the social media and marketing and digital functions of the company, where we really want people to grow inside the business. So we have a succession plan, and we can really start investing in our future. And Connor and his manager came to me a number of times and said, "You got to sign this kid. You got to sign this kid." And I said, "Man, I would." He's incredible. I watched him race go-karts at Trackhouse Motorplex. I mean, he really sort of came out of go-karts there, and I said, but I'm not really in a position to do that right now, because we're just trying to run our cup cars. And then I started thinking about it and talking to Tony Lunders and our chief operating officer, and it was kind of the MotoGP moment, kind of the Chip Ganassi racing moment. It's like, we just got to do it. He's just too great of a talent, too great of a kid, too big of an opportunity. Let's just bet on it. And we bet on it. And now we've got an incredible program for him over at Junior Motorsports in 2025. He's integrated in the company. He's a wonderful young man. He's mature beyond his years. He brought him to the Daytona 500 this year, put him in the suite. He was 17 years old, put him in the suite with our sponsors. And he was holding court with all of our sponsors. And they came to us and were like, when that kid's ready to go NASCAR racing, you tell us, because we'd love to be a part of it. So yeah, we're excited about Connor's future, and looking for some really big things out of him next year.
Man, and it's great. We didn't really even get to touch on the Trackhouse Motorplex, but definitely glad you mentioned it and want to put it out there. I know it's been a great resource for a lot of people, including on the professional side of racing, to continue to hone their craft. Justin, thank you so much. We appreciate you coming on with us again this year. It's really exciting to see everything that you've done, and we look forward to where this continues to go.
Yeah, I appreciate it as always. Thank you for the time.
EPARTRADE is a digital platform that we've created basically to make life easier in the business community of auto racing.
EPARTRADE, there is no e-commerce. It's literally a connection, just like at a trade show. So now, any time of the year, a buyer could reach out to a supplier.
When you see a product that you're interested in, all you need to do is click on request more information, and then from there it is forwarded directly to the buyer or to the supplier.
EPARTRADE really eliminates having to travel, closing down your shop. Now you have a place to showcase globally your racing product and technology.
Looking for a quick fix of motorsports news? The Speed Sport Daily is what you need. It's a free racing newsletter delivered directly to your email every day. We'll cover the winners and the losers and tell you who's making news off the track. It's NASCAR, NHRA, World of Outlaw, IndyCar, and so much more. Go to speedsport.com today and get signed up for America's free racing newsletter and get your daily motorsports fix. The Speed Sport Daily.
Land speed record holder George Poteet's Speed Demon rocketed 481 miles per hour at the Bonneville Salt Flats. You don't go that fast without ARP fasteners.
There is no way that we could go the speed that we've gone, the number of times we've gone, with a lesser quality bolt than ARP supplies to us. And we absolutely wouldn't be where we were today if it weren't for ARP.
When failure is not an option, it's ARP-bolts.com.
We're Performance Plus Global Logistics. Our team of dedicated performance industry and logistics experts get valuable cars and components to the track on time in top condition. We provide expedited logistics solutions for the performance industry using direct routes instead of deferred options, and communicate all necessary information to the appropriate resources to meet regulations and ensure a smooth transit and secure delivery, both domestically and internationally. And we exceed customer expectations by providing best-in-class service with an efficient and cost-effective system in place. Contact us today to book your next shipment.
Scott Lewis & Associates, the sales, marketing, and branding specialist for the automotive performance industry since 1988. We get our manufacturers on track by opening an extensive distribution network, providing product training to sales staff, creating fully integrated sales and marketing strategies, building successful industry partnerships, attending trade shows, events, and races, offering first-class support to customers. SLAI delivers solutions that win you sales. To get in touch with an SLAI representative, call 516-378-6100. Go to scottlewisinc.com or email info@scottlewisinc.com.
With roots in the Midwest that date back well before the Model T, Fifth Third Bank has a long history of serving the needs of automotive companies. While much has changed over the years, our passion for helping businesses put cars on the road and on the track has not. Today, we are more committed than ever as a member of SEMA, a founding member of PRI, and a sponsor of multiple race teams across several racing series.
For over a decade, Fifth Third Bank has been a staunch supporter of our industry and a great partner for many companies in the motorsports field.
Our business has been growing extremely fast, and really we could not be where we are today without Fifth Third. They provided amazing strategic advice, the capital we need to support our phases of growth.
They are true partners for me now, and what they do with their involvement in motorsports is untouched in this community.
Where can we take your business? Fifth Third Bank.
You work as hard as your truck, and you have no time for downtime. That's why more truck owners trust Blue Def, America's #1 diesel exhaust fluid brand. Each batch is guaranteed pure, so you can avoid costly repairs caused by inferior DEF. Demand America's best for your truck with Blue Def and Blue Def Platinum. Put trust in your truck.
When it comes to pushing the limits of performance, the pros know there's no room for compromise. At Crowder Cams, we don't just engineer camshafts and valve train components, we redefine what power means. Since 1955, Crowder Cams has been the name trusted by racers, engine builders, and gearheads around the globe. Whether you're building a street machine, a dragster, or a track car, Crowder Cams provides the muscle you need to dominate. And with Crowder, victory is within your reach.
For over 25 years, Wisconsin-based C-Tech Manufacturing has been engineering and manufacturing the toughest, most accessible aluminum tool drawers, cabinets, carts, and tactical storage solutions for America's hardest working professionals. Whatever you need to store and however you need to store it, put your trust in C-Tech Manufacturing. We build it better. Visit our new website at ctechmanufacturing.com or give us a call at 715-355-8842.
If you're watching this video, you might be wondering, what is WPC? WPC is a surface treatment designed to reduce friction and increase the strength of metal parts. As much as it might seem like a coating, WPC is actually a surface treatment. Think of it like shot painting, but the media is much finer, like talc. So what you're left with is a super hard, smooth surface that actually has some proprietary dry lubricants embedded within it. For more information, visit WPCtreatment.com.